oh my goodness, now I have a lot to live up to. Really honored, and thank you, Deanna, for inviting me to speak. Thank you, Dick Keeper, for having me here today to share my story. And my approach to servant leadership really is, wrong way. We all did that, didn't we? Is rooted in relationships. As you can imagine, being in alumni relations, donor relations is part of the title of the work that I do, but everything about me is about relationships, and it is truly my approach to servant leadership. So, in our lives, we have a lot of different titles. We have a title of wife and sister, friend, mentor. I'm a mom of 3 adult children. I'm a Mimi to a 5-year-old granddaughter. I currently still do serve as the Senior Director of Donor Services at the Greater Milwaukee Foundation. And every aspect of my life is rooted in relationships and is how I learned to be a servant leader. So I do have pictures. So here's a little smattering of my life, my 3 kids. I have my granddaughter there. And in the middle there is my dad. And it started with me with my dad, and he used to ask my siblings and I at the dinner table every night, and it was pretty much every night, like, what do you want to do? And in that, what do you want to do, it wasn't what career do you want to have? Maybe a little bit, it was about the career, but it was about, what kind of person did you want to be? And what kind of plan do you have to make a difference in this world? And that, so I grew up that way. And then I went to the University of Notre Dame, and at the University of Notre Dame, it was ingrained in me that a career or a job is not about the money. It is truly about sharing your gifts, your knowledge, your experience in order to solve big problems, to use your knowledge and your talents and expertise to improve or contribute to society. You might be familiar with their marketing term, during football games, which is the Fighting Irish, what would you fight for? And so every day I would think to myself, what am I going to fight for today? Who am I going to fight for today? So my career path, I stayed home with my kids after I got married for 12 years. And, being a parent is the best servant leadership job you can have, because you truly serve them. They do not serve you. So I stayed home for 12 years. I volunteered in the community, and then my career started to center around development and philanthropy. Alumni and donor relations, part-time supporting roles, first as the club administrator for the Notre Dame of Los Angeles, and then the coordinator of alumni clubs at Ohio Northern University, which then grew into leadership positions as the associate director and then the director of alumni relations at ONU. Moved to Milwaukee here and became the vice president of marketing and development for a local nonprofit, Secure Futures, and now moved over to the Greater Milwaukee Foundation as the senior director of donor services. If none of you are familiar with Greater Milwaukee Foundation, we manage about $1.2 billion of charitable assets. And these charitable assets, the whole point of these charitable assets is to address community issues throughout time. So we've been 110 years old. We've been addressing community issues for 110 years. We hope to address community issues for the next 110 years. So in my current role, I work with a portfolio of high net worth donors to help them achieve their philanthropic goals. I also advise and manage our donor services and stewardship efforts, and I lead our advising team, who all work with a large portfolio of donors. And at every level of my career, service is at the core. Either serving the alumni donors or serving individuals on my team, as well as peers and supervisors. Service is at the heart of my life's work. So, I'm just going to ask, how do you serve others if you don't have a relationship? How can you be a servant leader if you don't know how the people that you work for or with respond to motivation, respond to accountability? How do you know what their strengths and weaknesses are? So this is where I believe that rooted in relationships is key to servant leadership. To build relationships, you have to be vulnerable and authentic. You have to know yourself and share who you are with others. To build relationships, you have to have positive intentions. Listen and understand the other person and their perspective. To build relationships, you have to have the desire and the ability to be a confidant and a resource. So managing people brings me joy. A lot of people think I'm crazy because people can be really messy at times, right? But I disagree. I really think that developing, coaching, and growing people to be confident, capable, and ultimately overqualified for their job is the secret sauce for me. Okay, so how do I build authentic relationships that support this leadership, the sort of leadership model? Well, plant the seed. You share with others, who am I? What is my personality style, learning styles? What is challenging for me? How do I respond to feedback? And then I listen to colleagues, and learn their learning styles, their work styles, what motivates them, what challenges them, how do they respond to feedback, and what are their career goals. Parenting, 3 children, same parents, same environment, 3 completely different humans, 3 different ways you have to parent them. That's how I manage in my work life as well, because you have to meet people exactly where they are and what they're capable of doing, and basically finding ways to help them to grow. I also plant the seed at the beginning by setting clear expectations and holding people accountable and letting them know what happens when they don't meet that expectation. All right. So next, a servant leader enables growth by providing opportunities for experience and building skills, which leads to confidence. And then you can trust that they will do what's needed and they will do everything that's expected moving forward. Training, resources, professional development, I try to be a resource, and every one-on-one I ask them, how can I help you succeed? What resources do you need to be successful? I did have a coaching consultant at one time suggest at the beginning of every meeting that you ask, do you want to be helped, heard, or hugged? Now, I don't know if that works all the time, but however, what it really does do is make them understand that as a manager, I'm not there in that one-on-one to solve their problems. I want to empower them to figure out how to solve their own problems. And so, by wanting to help, you might suggest ways that they do things, but they really need to figure some things out on their own. And then, it's really important to me that I take time to walk with them when the work feels really hard. Because the worst thing in the world is when work is hard and there's nobody standing and walking beside you. And so that's something that I really try to do on a regular basis. All right, then, whoops. There are times as a servant leader too that you have to be the shelter in the storm. So sometimes it is my job to protect the team from outside forces that would derail a project or provide unnecessary harm or growth to progress. Additional work from other units, personality issues with other teammates or departments, processes that may not fit their work style. Those are all things that could possibly, be the storm and derail them. The one thing I've learned too is that you can't separate personal and professional life. And so when there are things going on in people's personal lives, that trickles into their professional lives. And so you really have to sometimes be the shelter in the storm from their personal world as well. And maybe provide some advice or at least a shoulder when it comes to relationship breakups or childcare or elderly care. Or if their basement flooded, like a lot of people's did, this past year. So being the shelter in the storm was really important too. And then if a servant leader does all these things, right, people get to bloom where they're planted. So in my career, I've shifted roles, institutions, organizations, and I've geographically moved all over the country. And for many, many years, too many years, long time ago, I kind of started this phrase, which was basically bloom where you're planted. Now I know that's on every couch pillow and wall today, but it wasn't 30 years ago. And so I knew that I needed to figure out how to succeed and thrive no matter the landscape. I knew that even if there was a lack of soil, water, and sunshine, I still had to figure it out. But as a leader, there is some magic when you are the one that provides the right landscape. With resources, support, people grow really fast and strong, and sometimes so fast that the pot becomes too small for their roots, and it's time for a different pot. So helping to grow others out of a position is incredibly rewarding. It can be difficult at times, but it really means that they're going to take what they learned to another workplace. They'll continue to be productive, utilize their skills and experience to contribute to the world in a bigger way. And it creates a multiplier effect and really is impactful. So I, being my authentic self, am rooted in relationships. And this is my approach to being a servant leader. Grounded in listening and learning, developing and coaching my teams, and growing their talent and confidence to spread their roots into the community and into the next fight. Thank you.